Hi, it's James from ATW, and we're back with another podcast. If I was actually doing this podcast about 10 years ago, I actually think Natalie would have been with me then as well. She's been a member of ATW and doing loads of our races for a long, long time, pretty much since day one, which we'll get into. But she's also been a pro triathlete. She's had her own coaching club. She's got so many stories. We're going to struggle to get this into about half an hour, so bear with us if this ends up with about 3 hours. Welcome to podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
That's really good.
Yeah,
Really good.
it is. I'm enjoying the chat already, pre-recorded.
Yeah, we've probably spoken for about an hour
I think so.
already, haven't we? But
Yeah, we are.
I actually saw, those Facebook memories. So one of them popped up the other day of the first Hatfield 5, which is now our longest running event. And the photo was showing us preparing all the reg packs. And one of the flyers was, I think it was Transition Try.
Yes.
Your coaching
Yeah, that was, yeah. That was memories ago. But yeah, Transition Try was off the back end of like me coming out of Loughborough and kind of wanting to go into coaching, but I wanted to kind of go with, well, actually, we wanted to be able to have a club that we could go and swim in the lagoon in Arlesey.
Okay.
So I was like, why not? Let's just formulate another club because there's not enough. And actually, there wasn't really around Hearts and Beds at the time. So yeah, that was
the fact that fly was in there, and that's now our longest event. So it's how long we've been.
Yeah, I know. Time flies, but it does when you're having fun. That's what they say.
It does. So let's fly even further back. I always want to find out how you actually got into the sport. Were you a swimmer first, a cyclist, a runner, or did you go straight into triathlon, or was it a completely different sport?
Well, in terms of triathlon, I use this all the time. I was literally thrown in the deep end, but I originated from being a swimmer. I was a butterfly national swimmer, bit freestyle, although I chose.
What age is this? What age are you talking?
Well, I started swimming as most kids do, and then joined a club, Hitchin, when I was 8, and then got up sort of national level when I was teenage years. But I think I had a really bad nationals. I should have made the final with the time I would have done, but I literally backwashed the town of Ponds Forge and drank half of it, and then just I lost the love for it instantly. I saw that, like, almost that cliche, you dream just leaves you. And with swimming, it's relentless. I always say 100%. And, even to the athletes I coach, I say swimming is the hardest because it's like putting lemons in a big jar to get a dribble out. It's so much workload to get a little bit, like, literally that is the difference between winning and coming last or your national time. So I kind of lost the love for it. And I reluctantly seem to have a good engine, which most swimmers do. And at the girls' school, I was always given the role of cross country. So I was happily plodding around Fennons Valley in a pair of pants and vest, hating life, in probably not even matching spikes. And they were like, right, you can go and do the national biathlon at Ponds Forge again, which was a bit triggering. As it happened, I was seeded first, got second, because actually mentally I had a bit of a block with the swim. And actually, it was the same year that Vicky Holland did it, who's the year above. And I think at the time we both got talent scouted by Dan Salcedo from British Triathlon. Just gave a business card. Tried triathlon. Yeah, I think at the time, because they've got a big pool of funding now, but they had some funding at the time, and I think they were looking at the youth junior sections and grassroots because it's nowhere near to what it is now. And yeah, they were looking at sort of the top caliber of people and seeing if they could then cross over.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you know what? I didn't even have a bike. I had to borrow my coach's bike, which was far too big, and it was so old school. It had the gears on the bottom.
On the front?
Nearly did, to be fair. I was like ET on it. But it was too big. The frame was too big, so I could barely brake. So that's always a problem. And the gears were on the bottom tube, so getting up a hill was quite a challenge. I was hating it. So needless to say, I've never really fell in love with the bike. But anyway, jump forward from that. We were doing some like trials with the regions down in Essex and Basildon, and they just kind of said, look, we'll put you on at what was World Class Start, which is lottery funded. I think it was £500 a year.
Yeah.
And you got a wetsuit. At the time, I was like, that's mind blowing. And I didn't really want to take it or take someone's place because I didn't feel like I
deserved it? Or
I felt a bit of an imposter. Okay. Yeah. And I'll be honest, I really didn't like the bike, and I'm still not convinced I do now. But my dad said, do you know what, Nat? Give it a go. And he was always my biggest advocate for stuff like that. He said, worst case, I'll pay the money back, So anyway, jumped into that. And like I say, from the deep end, my first ever race was at Dorney, Eton,
Okay. Yeah.
which again, a little bit triggering, but also lovely memories of it. It was the youth GB qualifier
Okay.
to get on the team. So I was like, right, hadn't done any practice, hadn't really done any transitions apart from like in my back garden.
And that's your first triathlon.
First
ever
triathlon. So whereas a lot of people go to Dorney and it's their first triathlon, and
it's to have some fun and
100%. There's no pressure. Like time, especially for your first one, time isn't really a thing. It's about the momentums, the processes, the enjoyment factor. That was totally robbed of me from the get-go. So my experience with triathlon has always been from elite level.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I enjoy so much like doing these sorts of things and the youth sides of whatever, but also coaching, because every single person I coach is from a get round or a get better or an improvement level. They're not at elite, and I would never take elite people on, because I'll be honest, it would take me back to my sides of it, and I don't think I'd enjoy it. I really don't. So that's why I think I enjoy so much the coaching, because I love their results through their love of it.
Yeah.
Whereas I never really had that, and even now I'm very hard on myself because of how I've had that upbringing of it.
Yeah.
So it's a nice flip, but I do wish in aspects that I had a few under my belt before I'd gone and done that. Let's put it that way.
You seem like you don't actually have many like happy memories of that sort of elite pro level. Was it more of a chore? Did you feel like you had to be doing those races?
Because criteria dictated that to be bum on seat, you had to do X amount. So as much as, again, when you're an age grouper, you've got the luxury of, I fancy this one, and this is a qualifier if I want to put my ball in the court. But mine were, these are the ones you've got to do, because if you want to stay on the program, this is what it is. And again, from my perspective, I didn't even really want to particularly do it, and because
what was keeping you there?
I think because I knew, but I knew a lot of people saw and believed in me. I've always said that I'll always do it for myself, and I always have done. But there was in the background that thing of I know I can do. I have got a bit of talent there, but I think naturally I am competitive. So I was competitive with myself, but also within the sector that is the World Performance Program.
Yeah.
But I think you're right in saying, I think there's very few real elation moments apart from result based that I've probably got out of elite sport.
Yeah. I do know another, I won't say her name, but I do know another pro triathlete that just said that she did that because she felt she owed it, because she was good at it. She felt that she needed to do it, but didn't really get the enjoyment either out of elite racing. Yeah,
and I think that is a lot of it, because you do have. I mean, mine was very low level, but it's still relative. When you've got the pressures internally, but behind you with other people would love your position, and we're putting money and investment, and as it got bigger, and I went to Loughborough and stuff. You've got English Institute of Sport, you've got Bupa, which was under the Olympic program, and you had all of these amazing athletes around you. It was kind of like keeping up with the Johnsons, because you had to keep up with them, because otherwise you're out of there. And sadly, that is what I experienced as well. But I think when I look at the crossroads of where I would have gone and where I am now, it's easy to say, but I don't know if I would have really progressed much more with that side of it.
Okay. Yeah.
I think
you would have found it in like today's like the modern sort of elite now, with social media obviously playing such a huge part, and obviously there is more funding and stuff available and things. How do you think you would have found it if you were an elite now rather than back then?
That's a good question. I think personally speaking, and I think again I revert back to athletes and other professional triathletes as well, I think social media has its place. I think in terms of seeing what other people are doing can be helpful. It can give you that push, but at the same time, I think social media for me personally and others, I think would actually be really detrimental.
Okay.
I do find quite a few athletes, I've even suggested to them to come off media for a while, because they're forgetting their enjoyment. They're forgetting how they're doing. We're all culprits to putting our shiny face on, the best foot forward. I think I'm quite honest. If I've had a bad day or my kids have
I
done
think you're
something,
very honest. Yeah.
but people I think like that, but it's not new. It's just real.
Yeah.
And I haven't got time, I'll be honest, with all of this stuff with a helicopter following me and someone bungee jumping out, taking a picture of me in the best light. Like, I look rough, but that to me is the real thing, not all of these glossy things. But I also understand when you're in that pool, you got to keep your followers, you got to keep your business stuff. But yeah, I think in terms of social media, it's great in getting yourself out there. I think for sponsorship and business wise, I think it's great. Stuff like this is really great. But I think in terms of where your head's at, and if you are a certain way inclined, it can destroy you. And I think for me personally, that's where I was, even at Loughborough. I'm surrounded by world-class athletes, not just in triathlon, the hub of everything.
Yeah.
And you're constantly comparing and contrasting. And for me, that's where the detriment came in.
So did you decide to leave yourself, or what? How was there?
I was kind of shown the door without realizing. It was because I'd developed an eating disorder, basically. So again, it was kind of
And that was due to the pressures, like you were talking about, seeing the other athletes, seeing what they were doing, and feeling like you needed to.
That to me was what the magic formula was. I was in the halls of residency with the athletics girls below me, so obviously they look quite a generic look, and I was like, God, I don't look like this. And you see how quick they are, and then I think this is another thing. Sports such as aesthetics, the look of it, when the body and the weight is a big factor in it, like running, like triathlon to a point, and gymnastics, the focus becomes on the body and the weight and the leanness, and that it's almost like leanness and lightness equals results. And we were actually told that, I think the first or second time I'd gone into the conditioning room on site at poolside, we kind of just did it. We just jumped on the scales.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what kilograms and stuff, because I never needed to know. I lived in like a village. Like, we don't do that. We just worked on what performance was, which is what the message should be. So anyway, the coaches, which were male, said, what weight were you? Asked the other girls, and we gave them, and they're like, right, okay, we need to give you a nutrition list and stuff. And then the sports science comes in and says, the lighter the body, the less energy consumption, oxygen utilization, quicker you'll go. So that was walked into us quite quickly, boys and girls. And that's great. But then we were kind of left to our own devices with a bit of help from nutritionalists with how we went about that. And obviously, being competitive, it was who could lose the weight the quickest. Because you'd see other girls that were training with us lose all the weight, and they're doing really well. So we're like, that's what I need to do. So you're looking at and for me, I went completely like down the dark sides of how am I going to do it really quickly. And I remember at the time, it was one of the performance directors. I'll never forget, he saw me and he went, God, look at you, look how much weight you've lost. Like, you look really good. And I thought, yeah, I've been accepted. Completely wrong, because he had no idea how I'd done that and how quick I'd done that. And that was the thing. And again, I don't wish to bash all the coaches, but I think there's a huge lack of education there, and they were all male. And when we did have a female, I personally believe she had a bit of an eating disorder herself, as an athlete and as a person. So, we'd go on these training camps, and the girls were not allowed to have the desserts. Even though we were smashing out the training, we weren't allowed. In one camp, it was during the Easter time. I think it was an April, May camp. And our parents had obviously snuck in some chocolate, and my mum had given me like a chocolate egg, and as you do.
Yeah.
And we were literally told if we were caught having anything like that, we'd be banned from the next camp. And even down to the pasta on the hotel being cooked in oil, the coaches sent it back to the kitchen so that we had it cooked only in water.
Right.
And it's bonkers. It's bonkers. And I think it's better now.
Did you feel it in terms of like trying to actually train and everything? Were you feeling less energy? But
100%. But I saw that as that was just what you did.
Yeah.
If you felt a bit faint, or again, if you got a comment, you kind of felt like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. It's so warped, but it was almost a bit of an attention thing as well, because you're very, even if you're not an athlete, when you go and leave your family home, when you've had everything done for you and you go in this environment, and then you've got to organise your life and feed yourself, to then add that on to the pressures of being an elite athlete, I just completely had lost my way
Yeah.
and thought that was the right thing to do until it wasn't. And I was slowly taken off funding, you know, and then I'll never forget one time I was basically told by one of the main coaches I needed to go home.
Right.
Not really any explanation, but I felt like I was contagious and I was treated like my eating disorder and my behaviors were contagious, and almost if you touched me, you'd catch it. And that's, I felt eradicated from that. And I always say, I felt like I was put on the other side of the fence looking in.
Yeah.
So then I went from training with the elite squad to then the triathlon university squad. And quite honestly, I had a really good time with it. It broke my heart to be literally lanes apart from where I should be.
Yeah.
But that was probably the first time I learned that these people are doing it for banter. They do it for the socials. They're doing it. And actually, when you look at who was there, you had Dan Plews, who's now massive, big time, coach of Chelsea Sadara at the time and does all of this stuff. They were great athletes. Zone 3, the owner of Zone 3, he was training with us. There were some great athletes still. And I loved the fact that they didn't have funding. They didn't have to turn up, but they turned up
anyway.
And they were good athletes, but had the enjoyment. And that's probably the first time there that I learned to enjoy it more.
Right.
I really, truly did.
How old? So that was it.
So I would have been
early 20s?
Yeah, 20, because it was when I'd done a study for someone's, because obviously Loughborough was full of, I was sports science as well. So I was like, give me a free trial. So they were doing DEXA scans free to do, it was basically to see about periods or lack of periods, bone density in runners, triathletes on distance females. So I thought I'll sign up for that. So I had a DEXA scan, which would cost hundreds now. And that's where it got flagged up that actually I had osteopenia in my lumbar spine because I hadn't had a period for probably a year and a half. But I didn't see a problem with that. I just thought, oh, that's helpful. I don't have to worry about it. It's another thing I don't have to worry about every month. But actually, that was the biggest wake-up call to go, right, the doctor said, do you want bone health or do you want children? And at the time I thought, I quite like bone health because I'd like to keep doing what I'm doing, thanks.
Yeah.
And I was placed on HRT at 21. There's women now that are in 40s, 50s that are on it. And I was 21. It's bonkers. And I was just so mindset on, I just want to keep doing what I do and almost get back to where I was. I didn't even.
So you were still trying to you still wanted to.
I still wanted
to cross the other lane.
Yeah, because I'm one of these people that's why I never stepped away fully from the sport, because I could have easily have just gone, I hate triathlon, I hate everything about it, but I wanted to stay on that path for me, because I know deep down I was good at it, I could give back to it. And I feel like I've gone the right way of giving back in terms of coaching, volunteering, helping that way, because I am stubborn, but I didn't want it to defeat and define me in that sense. So I did. I definitely did. I wanted to go back because I know that I'm good enough to be there with a healthy body. But unfortunately, it's a bit of a life sentence. Once you've got an eating disorder, you can't just puff and vanish it.
Yeah.
You have to learn to live with it.
Yeah. How long did it take you to?
Years. I mean, I got so bad because I was on a scholarship as well at Loughborough that my parents, I think, wanted me out. They wanted me out because I was, 90 miles up the road, living in a house on my own. So I had no support, but I was so bloody minded that I am going to do this. And I had to come out with something, not an eating disorder. I could not have that as my final thing.
Yeah.
My parents put so much money and investment in me, and even though I said I didn't do it for other people, I owed it to them to come out with something. Wasn't the greatest degree. They call it the Mickey Mouse degree, but it came. I had the piece of paper. They gave me, the scholarship people gave me an extra year, which my parents probably were like, cheers.
Right. Yeah.
Now I have to sell the dog's organs. But they were like, listen, we support you, and I love them for that. I did come out with a degree, again, probably not my best, but my head was up my backside, and I was just
I think
fighting.
considering everything you've gone through.
I think so, yeah.
It's amazing.
That's it, and
do you realise that now, looking back at it?
I do. I mean, obviously, again, the competitive sides of me kind of goes, oh, you could have done better. But at the same time, I was fighting every single day to even get out of bed. When I think about it, I'll get upset. But when I think about it, I really struggled. I really struggled more than I think I thought I did. You know, my dad's a bit of the old school of, you know, come on, open your curtains. You know, we don't do this, and you can't have a pill to take it. And I was like, I need something a bit more than that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I was, like I say, I was living in a house, running it on my own. And so I really pulled strength through that. And I think perhaps at the time I didn't see it, but I was in a real bad, you know, my mum and dad would sometimes come up, and because they hadn't really told me they were coming up, I didn't let them in.
Right.
They'd driven up to come and see me, and I locked them out because I wasn't ready. I didn't feel like I was in a mental place to see or talk to anyone, and that's
Yeah.
so not me. It's like
Yeah.
I'm the complete opposite. I've got total diarrhea, but it just it was almost like a dark shadow over my life at that time. It just engulfed every part of me,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm like, oh, that's why I'm a massive
Yeah.
that's why I'm a massive advocate for, you know, I have got some athletes that have come from disordered eating and a bit more of a background, because I generally can give them that that support,
Yeah.
you know, without being an expert, but I would say I'm pretty much lived version of it.
So where did you go from, like, leaving Loughborough then? Did you still carry on doing sort of local triathlons and things? Where did or did you go straight to coaching then? Where did your journey progress from?
Well, I qualified, left there as quick as I could, not two thoughts in sight. Came home, lived at home, as most people do, and then again it was a case of, what am I going to do? Because my identity had always been the triathlete. You know, people would ask my mum and dad, how's Nat getting on at Loughborough? You know, and sometimes they were like, not very well, actually. So I felt like, Jesus, what's my identity? Like, what? And no disrespect, but when you come out with a degree in sports science, there's not actually much you can do with it. So I then went and I'd done a massage course across at the college. So that was sort of me driving that business a bit. I'd done personal training. So I used that. And then I'd done the British Triathlon coaching while I was there. So I thought, might as well combine it all. And again, started transition started kind of opening up and saying, look, I'm back in the area. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And it kind of went from there. Because like I say, I sat in that crossroads and thought, I hate triathlon. I hate everyone about it and everything about it. But then I thought, I've got too much investment. I've spent too much
And
of
you
my
know
life.
too much. You got so much knowledge in it.
And that's the thing. I like, knowledge is power, and you're always learning. I think the minute you stop learning, you're dead. Like, I always think every day you learn from something, someone. And I thought, if I have got this wealth of knowledge, good and bad, why not give back to it on my terms? That was the difference. So yeah, so I started Transition Tri at the time. We did a bit of a tri store, but you can't compete with Amazon. Realised that very quickly. And then just went on from there. And then,
how did you find that sort of transition from suddenly you're the coach, you're the one having to give all the advice, when you, by the sounds of it, you were given lots of bad advice?
yeah,
How did it feel having that control then of, this is what the information I want to pass on, and this is the athlete I think you should be?
yeah, I think that was it. It was the control. I had control back, and I knew what narrative I wanted to give and what perception of sport and training and enjoyment I should have had and that people deserve to have. And I think also another thing, I say this even now, people are adults. You know, you vote with your feet, you spend money, and it is a luxury, you know, unfortunately. So when the first thing to go when bills need paying is things like your health and, you know, to a point, obviously, massage for me, people won't go and pay for a massage because they're like, I've got to pay the bills, or, you know, coaching, that will go sadly. But at the same time, this is where I respect that people have chosen me out of now loads of people, and they want my time, my expertise, and they're willing to pay that when life is tough now as well with the cost of everything. And I find that really respectful. So I want to give them my best self to get the best from them as well. So yeah, it's on my terms, my values. I think I'm not a massive statistician. I like data, but I've come from up there where it was fully data and you forgot actually how you felt as an athlete. You were just a bot. So I work very much on the holistic science of stuff and data added to that. So that's where I changed the narrative on the coaching point. It wasn't just about times, you know, stats, this and this and this. What's my heart rate doing? But how do you feel? You know, that's where I go with it now. I'm kind of, especially with the women, I ask them if they will to let me know their menstrual cycles. They put it in their training peak. So I know when they can push and when they can't.
Okay.
You know, and if they kind of, especially perimenopause, or it's a bit of a gamble for all of us, it's kind of like they'll go, God, I feel really flat today. And I've done this before 2 weeks ago or a month ago, and I felt so much better. And am I losing fitness? And I'll say, but where do you think you are? Or have you had signs that you're in your cycle? Oh, yeah, well, I didn't. Right, well, there's your answer. So it gives them the tools to actually hone in on their own bodies
and to listen to their own bodies.
To listen to the bodies and not go by the stats all the time, because, you know, there's so many variables, and that's where I've learned that, but also I sort of channel that through my sides of how I coach.
Yeah. Are you also still competing yourself?
Yeah.
Doing bits and pieces. For a bit, and I probably shouldn't do this, but whenever I say that, I know you, I said she had 4 kids in 4 years,
Smashed them out,
but was still competing in triathlon all the way up until
the time.
And it was probably, I think it was about 6 weeks. Was it 6 to 8 weeks or something, that after one of them?
Yeah, one of them's really, I think it was St. Neots I'd done. And the funniest, I think I didn't really hear it because I was just like, oh, but I'd got out of the water, and obviously I'm like this, like beached whale in the front of me. My husband was watching, and they said, oh, this is the first female out. And she's pregnant. And I think I'd done one where I had a terrible dismount. Honestly, properly fell over. I was like going back to that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was fortunate because I had, you know, I was fortunate to be able to have children after everything. That was the biggest winner for me.
Yeah.
I can't, like Lee said, he said, a bit like you, Nat, you just can't stop, can you? You just had to keep showing these people that you could have more, you know, and I'm competitive. So I was probably like, let's just see how many we can add. And so, yeah, I was fortunate actually, given the body that I was able to have, that I was fit throughout. And actually, I said it's like natural EPO. It's like, because obviously your cardiac output's higher, you get more volume of blood, and everything. So actually, it's like free EPO that's legal. So after that, and you're training heavier, and you know, obviously everything feels awful and whatnot. But then when you've not, you know, you've had the baby and you've got all of that benefit to it, you're like, oh, and I'm lighter and I feel great. Apart from things down below, you know, that's changed a little bit. The pelvic floor is on the floor now, but you know, you adapt to these things. Honestly, it was wild.
So what advice would you give to other women about, because obviously trying to do triathlon or any sport when you're pregnant, you'll probably get a whole array of information and misinformation.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, I would say, I think your best time to do it personally, obviously the first trimester, you feel pretty guff anyway, because you feel probably quite sick. You know, your hormones are all over the place and you feel proper lethargic. I found that I performed, as in not times, but how my body felt and recovered was in the second trimester, when you're kind of more established. And then obviously towards the third and near the end, you just obviously got to be careful. I used a belly brace as well, just to kind of keep, I wasn't very big, luckily, but to keep that. But I would say go by personal. I mean,
how you feel.
Yeah. And you know, obviously as long as there's no complications or anything, you know, you're pretty much good to go. I mean, I see it now more often, you know, even on Instagram and Reels and stuff. You see these women that are heavily pregnant running, or they're weight training, because there's nothing to say you can't, as long as you're sensible with it. And I have this rule,
don't ramp things up and
don't do anything you wouldn't do. And you know, your body's your biggest, I say this even about illness, not even pregnancy. Your body will always stop you. Like your mind can keep going, but your body will say, not doing it. So I would give myself a rule of 1 day on, 1 day off, because I would do training, not anything mad, but then the next day I was knackered. So I had to just learn to do that.
Adapt and listen to your body.
Yeah. And I personally think it's great for the birth as well, because, you know, your muscle tone's there. And if you're an athlete, genuinely, for me, I remember my last child was the hardest birth, believe it or not, because he was the smallest. And I remember literally they were like, oh, we might have to take you down for C-section. I thought, absolutely not. I've got 3 other kids. I have no time for this. And I was like, challenge accepted. And I clicked in. It was almost like a race mode where you think this is temporary. This pain is temporary. Like the end result's here. It's not going to be like for the rest of your life. And you kind of put that mindset of competitiveness in. And I thought, you ain't putting scissors near me.
I can actually imagine you doing that to making a cup of tea or something, to be honest. I imagine that
Well,
off the street does sound very...
jokes aside, my last son, he is born New Year's Day, and I wanted him to be the first to be born on New Year's Day. He made the second, but he's the first boy, so I was a little bit disappointed in him. I generally, bearing in mind, obviously, this is getting into the new year, New Year's Eve, while I was literally hanging out backside here, I said to the nurse, first of all, she recognised me, which was terrifying because I thought, you do not need to see me in this state. She ran for the local running club at Fairlands Valley. And she's like, no, I thought, we don't need this conversation. I genuinely asked, am I all right to go and do the New Year's Day park run? Because I hadn't 2:30 in, and they were like, no. I was ready to go, but because I'd lost too much blood with him, they were like, can't advise it. But I genuinely was like, right, can we have a quick sandwich, cup of tea? Yeah. I was 100% doing it because that night I was at the curry house. It's a mindset, but obviously your body has to recover, but it was a mindset.
That is incredible.
I would have done it as well.
I know you would have done. I know you would have done. So what are you doing nowadays? I know you did some long course weekends. I know you won that one.
Yeah, I won Belgium this year. It's the first time I've done Belgium. Really recommend it. I mean, it's still a night Ironman, not full distance over 3 days.
Yeah.
I'm not going to paint it in glory. It hurts.
Yeah.
And actually, as much as it does hurt, you do get the time to sleep, shower, eat, recover,
and go again.
Go again. But mentally, it's tough. Like the swim for me, I'm like, right, let's go have a beer afterwards. But then you get up in the morning and you think, well, I've got 112 miles.
It's a long time. And
then that's fine. You come off it pretty not great. But then the next morning you wake up and you go, oh.
Yeah, again, got the marathon.
Yeah, that's where the mental has to come in.
Yeah.
But it is a race to recovery. But they, great events like yours, very much about the people. And that's why I really have wanted to support, ATW, at the time, long course weekend, and even the challenge family events, because they are literally that. They're you see where the effort and the love goes in, and it's about the experience of the athlete, and it really is, because other corporations, as we know, don't really care for your feedback because they know they're going to get the entries
anyway. Yeah.
Whereas, you guys take on board the feedback, you listen, you want the experience because you are athletes yourself and you know what that means to people through lived experience and from what feedback you get, And
I think a lot of the times with what we do, we basically say, how would we want that event organised if I was racing?
Yes.
It's actually as simple as that.
And that's and again, it's not rocket science. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
And that's why I've enjoyed. I mean, I moved house. I moved out of Weymouth. We did 3 years down there. Sold the house earlier this year.
Yeah, you're back now up this way.
Yeah, finally. We did 4 months on a caravan park. It's a glorified caravan, but my dad has to let me say it's a static luxury mobile home. Yeah. Sorry. But it's a caravan. So when you've got 4 kids, a sausage dog, and you're trying to watt bike on the veranda while people are having a lovely holiday, I wasn't the best. So my season's not been exactly what it was, but I still managed to get bits done because of, the mindset.
Doing some running races and stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly. The fitness is always there. It's not been ideal this season. So that's why I haven't really done any pro races. And I think, to be honest with you, at the grand old age of 38, which isn't really that old, I make myself sound old. I think I did a year last year of pro racing and I did enjoy it. But at the same time, I did find the pressure back on myself because, again, I'm a nobody in terms of the pros that are up there. I had a bit of imposter syndrome, but at the same time, I was like, I've chosen these races based on the field. I'm not going to compete with the Lucy Charles, who is, do you know what I mean? So that was it. I'll be honest, I think next year, I'm not going to take my pro card. I think you're
just going to look for the enjoyment.
I'm going to look for the enjoyment because that's, again, coming back up here and doing these events, I kind of rub off other people's experiences.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, when I did do, the age group stuff, I did enjoy it because doing the GB age group team stuff. I liked it because I did feel that pressure was off. Even though no one cares,
Yeah.
I felt like people cared. And again, coming back to social media, you almost have to keep that going. And, you know, you hear it other places if a pro athlete has not had his season or hasn't done a great race, or they're making excuses in people's eyes. You think, do I want that? I can't be asked. I'd rather be honest and say, I'm 39 next year. I'm not a contender. Yeah. No, I do want for my 40th, which is just, there's other ways to spend a 40th, but I'm going to spend my 40th aiming to go to Kona.
Yeah.
It's a one and done.
Great.
Like, it's a one and done. I thought, you know, that my kids think we're going to Disney for my 40th.
Yeah.
Absolutely not, kids. This is not happening. That investment and my husband's pension that he draws down on is going on those flights to Kona. So end of the year. Oh, absolutely. I don't even care how I come. Like, if I ride a dolphin, that'll make my dream. Do you know what I mean? Give me that bracelet. That's it. I'm done. And then that'll be me probably sailing it off. That'll be me.
Well, that's a perfect way to close it off,
100%.
I think.
I mean, if I haven't there, I'm coming back. But I'm hoping I can put all my eggs in that basket and be like, one and done. Thanks very much. Aloha, whatever it is.
I've got no doubt she's going to be there. So watch this space. Natalie's going to have some fun over the next couple of years. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you at Kona.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Fascinating story. Genuinely fascinating story.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
very
me.
much.